$500 billion. That number should make you uncomfortable, because the company behind it started as a charity. And when I first dug into this story, I felt something I didn't expect. Betrayal. Not my own betrayal, but a sense that something important had been quietly broken. A promise that was supposed to protect all of us just disappeared. The two men who founded OpenAI to save humanity from dangerous AI, they're now suing each other. The nonprofit board designed to keep this technology safe, they got fired for trying to do their job. And that original mission to benefit all of humanity, it got replaced by a $1 trillion IPO. I spent weeks going through the financials, the lawsuits, the leaked documents. And what I found isn't just a corporate story. It's a warning about what happens when the most powerful technology in history meets the most powerful force in capitalism. This story starts with a dinner, two billionaires, and a fear that kept them both up at night. December 2015, the Rosewood Hotel, Silicon Valley. Elon Musk and Sam Altman sit across from each other, and they're both feeling something most billionaires never admit to. Fear. Real fear. The kind that sits in your stomach. They're not afraid of competitors. They're not afraid of failure. They're afraid of something they believe could end civilization if the wrong people build it first. Artificial general intelligence. A machine smarter than any human who ever lived. So they make a decision that, at the time, felt almost noble. They'll build the most powerful AI on Earth, but they'll do it as a non-profit. No shareholders demanding growth. No investors expecting returns. Just one mission: benefit all of humanity. They announce a $1 billion pledge. The founding team is stacked. Musk, Altman, Greg Brockman from Stripe, Ilya Sutskever from Google. The charter literally says, and I want you to hear these words, quote, "For the benefit of humanity as a whole, unconstrained by a need to generate financial return." Reading that now, it almost hurts, because that billion-dollar pledge was mostly theater. Company disclosures show they only received $130 million by 2019. 4 years of operation. Barely a tenth of what they promised. But here's what actually mattered. The nonprofit structure wasn't about money. It was about control. They built a safety switch into the company's DNA. If OpenAI ever achieved AGI, that technology couldn't be owned by any single corporation. The board could cut off investors completely. It was elegant. It was idealistic. And it was about to collide with reality. 2017. OpenAI's researchers start running the numbers. And what they find terrifies them in a completely different way. Building AGI requires compute. Not a little compute. Industrial scale, nation-state level computing power. We're talking billions of dollars per year just to train the models. And here's a non-profit trying to raise that through donations. You can almost feel the desperation creeping in. The mission that felt so pure at that dinner in 2015, it's now crashing into a wall called economics. 2018. Musk leaves the board. Publicly, he says it's a conflict of interest with Tesla. Privately, leaked emails tell a different story. He wanted OpenAI to merge with Tesla, or he wanted full control. When he got neither, he walked away from the thing he helped create. A year later, OpenAI makes a choice that changes everything. They create a, quote, capped profit subsidiary. Investors can now put money in. Returns are limited to 100 times their investment. Microsoft writes a $1 billion check. But that money came with strings attached. Microsoft gets exclusive cloud computing rights. They get first access to OpenAI's technology. And there's a clause, a strange, almost sci-fi clause, that says if OpenAI achieves AGI, Microsoft loses access to everything. At the time, it probably felt like a clever safety measure, a way to ensure AGI couldn't be monopolized. But Microsoft would eventually invest $13 billion more. And suddenly that AGI clause wasn't protection. It was a $135 billion liability, hanging over the most important partnership in tech. November 17, 2023. I remember where I was when I saw this headline, and I remember the confusion, the disbelief. Sam Altman has been fired from OpenAI. The board says he wasn't, quote, consistently candid in his communications. Corporate speak for, "We don't trust you anymore." But nobody explains why. And for about 48 hours, the entire tech world holds its breath. Here's what we eventually learned. Former board member Helen Toner revealed that Altman had been withholding information for years. He launched ChatGPT without telling the board. He owned OpenAI's startup fund without disclosing it. Two executives described to the board what they called, quote, psychological abuse and a, quote, toxic atmosphere. Think about what that moment must have felt like for those board members. They were the safety switch, the ones who were supposed to protect humanity if things went wrong. And they believed things had gone wrong. So they pulled the trigger. And then, something happened that should disturb all of us. Within 48 hours, 700 out of 770 OpenAI employees threatened to quit. Microsoft offered Altman a job leading their AI division. Investors applied pressure from every direction. The nonprofit board, the one designed to prioritize humanity over profit, discovered they had no actual power. The safety switch didn't work. 5 days later, Altman was back. The board was gutted. And the lesson was brutally clear. When safety conflicts with money, money wins. After the failed coup, the transformation accelerated. Like they stopped pretending. 2024. OpenAI announces full conversion to a for-profit company. The nonprofit stays but loses control. One funding round included a clause, convert by December, or lose $10 billion. Elon Musk, watching from the outside, sues. He says OpenAI abandoned its mission to benefit humanity. He offers $97 billion to buy back the nonprofit. OpenAI says no. October 2025. The conversion completes. OpenAI becomes a public benefit corporation worth $500 billion. The nonprofit foundation holds 26%. Microsoft holds 27%. The AGI clause now requires, quote, independent expert verification. In just the past year, the Stargate project, $500 billion in AI infrastructure, announced at the White House. A $1 billion Disney deal for AI-generated Mickey Mouse videos. $13 billion in revenue. A $1 trillion IPO on the horizon. They're burning $8 billion a year. They've committed $1.4 trillion over the next 8 years. Profitability? Not expected until 2029. So why does this matter to you? Because OpenAI's story answers a question we've been asking since AI research began. Can you build the most powerful technology in human history without profit motives taking control? We now have the answer. No, the economics make it impossible. Training one frontier model costs hundreds of millions. Building the infrastructure costs hundreds of billions. No nonprofit can sustain that. No government grant covers it. The only entities with that kind of capital are corporations expecting returns. And once you take their money, you play by their rules. November 2023 proved it. The safety board tried to do their job. The system rejected them completely. Within a week, they were gone. The safety switch was disabled. And I don't think we're getting it back. Here's what I want you to remember. The next time you hear an AI company talk about, quote, benefiting humanity, ask yourself 3 questions. Who's holding the check? Who decides what benefit means? And what happens when those priorities conflict? OpenAI started with genuine fear about AI safety, genuine hope about doing things differently, and genuine belief that a nonprofit structure could protect us. Now it's worth $500 billion. And that original fear? It got expensive. The hope got restructured. The belief got a, quote, independent expert panel. Good intentions weren't enough. In AI, the money always finds a way. If this helped you understand what's really happening, hit subscribe. I break down the stories that matter for your career in an AI world. I'll see you in the next one.